options are long daycare, family daycare, and preschool services. So for long daycare, it is perfect for those who work long days and need care for their children during business hours. It operates for at least 8 hours a day, typically Monday to Friday, in a childcare center and caters for children from birth to school age. Family daycare, on the other hand, is great for parents who want their children to learn and play in small groups in a home-like environment. It caters for children birth to 12 years and is held in the home of a registered educator. And preschool services usually caters for children aged 3 to 5 and is perfect for children who are almost ready for primary school. Sometimes this is known as kindergarten, and it can be a standalone service or part of another education and care service or school. But by the way, if we are just meeting, kia ora, kamusta? Welcome to Australia. I am your host, Binibining Veronica. On our last video, we talked about how to apply for childcare services in Australia. However, today we'll take it a step back and talk more about childcare services for kids under 5 years old. Moving to Australia? Well, you gotta plan with Veronica. So we have a table here just focusing on those 3 types of services: your long day care, your family daycare, and preschool. It will be called differently in other states for preschool anyway. So in Queensland, Tasmania, Victoria, Western Australia, it'll be called kindergarten. So the ages are presented in the table, and then the number of hours. So for my daughter, for example, she is 4 years old now. So she goes to kindy because in Queensland, we have, the way it works is you have your childcare services, kindy, and then prep, and then year 1. This will be different in other states as well. Okay, so just keep that in mind. And then the hours of operation will depend on the facilities. So in my daughter's kindy, it's open 6:30 in the morning until 6:30 at night. And then NQF just stands for National Quality Framework. So for my daughter's kindy, they follow that NQF and it's regulated. And just some descriptions here and key benefits. So the first one talks about how educators providing education and care to children in a center-based environment offering extended hours, provides preparation for school through a play-based learning curriculum, and may suit parents working full-time. On the other hand, for family daycare, they are educators providing education and care in their homes to small groups of children and may also offer OSHC. And then for preschool, state-funded service that usually offers shorter hours or sessional sessions and care during school terms, provides preparation for schools through a play-based learning curriculum. It can be a standalone service or part of another education and care service or school. So for example, in my daughter's situation, like I said, she goes to kindy. However, the facility offers like long hours. They are open 6:30 in the morning until 6:30 at night, Monday to Friday. However, the kindergarten program, where they have like the actual educator and then they are teaching the students, I guess if I may put it that way, and that's only for like 8 o'clock till I think 4 if I'm not mistaken, or 8 till 3 o'clock or something like that. So if you have children under 5 years old, you can go to this website. I will write the link below. So it's called startingblocks.gov.au. There is a little app there about how to find childcare. So you can just put in your address. You can adjust the distance of search, or if you have like a preferred keyword, I don't know, like maybe Catholic school or something like that. And then you can filter the results based on service types, vacancies, age, service rating, and then session type, either I guess long hours or short hours, and then days. Your preferred days. And I think that's an important thing to remember as well. There is a waiting list for childcare services. So I remember when we first moved from New Zealand to Australia, where I first enrolled my daughter, not all of the days were available. So initially I was working full-time, so that was Monday to Friday, and then my husband works full-time as well. However, he does rostered shift, so I only work business hours because I was working as a clinical facilitator, so like 8 till 4:30. It was important that I get childcare for that full time, for that Monday to Friday. So it was a bit challenging when some of the days were not available. So, for my husband, he'll try and request for a day off. But as you know, if you are a nurse, you can only request for a few days. So it was challenging initially. But eventually, other days came up. So that was good in the end. So we got the days that we wanted. However, when we moved to another facility, some of the days that we want are not available still, so we had to wait again, or we had to keep looking for other childcare services. So there was actually one close by in our new home, so it's only like 10 minutes drive. However, because like 2 days were not available, couldn't really commit to that childcare services, so now we have to like drive a little bit further, so maybe another 5 minutes drive, just because they could accommodate our days. So I guess for you, if you are looking for childcare services, other than the type of childcare that you want, obviously the time would also be important. If you're only after like the 6 hours and you're fine with that, or if you're like me, you want some flexibility around it. So we don't necessarily leave our daughter 12 hours each day in the childcare service. However, because it's open early, it's very good for us in days where I am working, because now I have decreased my hours, so I only do 3 days a week now, so that's very handy. But still, on the days that I am working, I need to drop my daughter before 7 o'clock. And then obviously when my husband finished his work in a morning shift, for example, then he can pick up my daughter just before 4 o'clock. And then similarly, for example, my husband is working afternoon shift. He drops my daughter like a bit later, like 9 or 9:30. They wake up really late. This father and daughter duo. They like to take their time, Obviously, if my husband is working afternoon shift, he won't start until 2:30. So they do have a bit of time in the morning to, I don't know, take their time, enjoy breakfast. So he usually drops her off maybe 9:30 or just before 10 o'clock. And then because I finish 4:30, I just pick her up just before 5 o'clock. So for us, even though our daughter doesn't really stay 12 hours in the childcare service, it's so helpful that they are open within that time frame. So there's no pressure, I guess, for us in terms of dropping her off and picking her up in the afternoon. I hope that makes sense somehow. What else can I tell you? So just be mindful, there is a waiting list, and then there's this different different types of services. Either it's in the educator's home, or if you're like me, I prefer it being in like an establishment, like a childcare center. I just prefer it that way. I will not talk about it in this video, but let me know if you want some guidance of what to look for, I guess, in a particular childcare service, or what to ask for if this is your first time looking for a childcare service. Let me know and I'll create another video about that. Now let's talk about cost. So surprisingly, when we moved from New Zealand to Australia, I was looking this up online. It was shocking to me anyway. So the national daily average is 132 Australian dollars. However, it could vary depending on which area the service is located. So for example, if it's in Sydney, it's $178, Melbourne, $162. And this is per day, per day. And then Brisbane is 128, Perth is 162, Darwin 129, Adelaide 123, Hobart 127, Canberra 157. We'll talk more about the fees from New Zealand to Australia, but please, if you are enjoying this video, please hit subscribe and turn on your notification bell so you will know when I upload new videos just like this one. And if you want to support the channel, click that super thanks icon. That would mean so much for me. I'm getting your support so I can keep on doing what I am doing here in YouTube. Or simply buy me a coffee by clicking the link below. So that link is buymeacoffee.com/binibining_ver. It really means so much when you help me with what I am doing in YouTube, either by liking, subscribing, or by supporting my channel financially. I really appreciate that. It means so much. And if you want to build a community around your plans and goals, we also have a Facebook group for Pinoy nurses in New Zealand moving to Australia. Please feel free to join by clicking the link above. If you are a nurse or you know a nurse who want to grow a career abroad, I have a free planner. You can use it. Just click the link below to grab my notes. I hope it can help you the same way it has helped me moving from the Philippines to New Zealand. And then after 10 years or so, moving from New Zealand to Australia. All right, let's go back to the cost of childcare. I have a table here comparing Australian National Daily Average. I just took it out of Google, and then the other side is New Zealand National Daily Average. So just obviously know the other side is Australian dollars, the other side is New Zealand dollars. There is some slight difference. Australian dollars is slightly higher. But as you can see, gosh, right? It's almost like double, if not like 2/3 more. So for example, in Auckland, it's $60, 60 New Zealand dollars per day. In Wellington, it's 58, Tauranga 59. Depending on the area, Hastings could be 56, Napier around 85, Rotorua 40, Hamilton 55, Christchurch 43, and Dunedin 59, with national average of $59 or almost $60 per day. And I have written the cities like no particular order at all. I was just completing the box just for a point of comparison. And then if you want to have a specific example, so in New Zealand, same with Australia, the fees are slightly different for under 3 years old and over 3 years old. So I just got it from a website of a childcare service in New Zealand. I can't even remember if this was in Auckland. But it tells you that for a full-time, Monday to Friday, it's $275 for under 3 years old for that full week. For over 3, it's $181. But diba, in Australia, that's just like a day lang. And then daily nila na rate is minimum 3 days, $60. For over 3, it's $40. And then if you are looking for a 6-hour day, so 9 o'clock till 3 o'clock, it's $50 for under 3. They're not offering it for over 3 years old. Or 6-hour week, Monday to Friday, it's $190 versus $95. And then there are sessionals available as well, but it says here not applicable. And then on the other side, it says launch charges apply. And then there's also an one-off administration fee. And I think the important thing to note here is if you are looking for childcare services either in New Zealand and Australia, just know that you have to have a fixed day when you need to enroll your child. So for example, if it was just my husband, he works rostered shift, right? Like as a nurse. So he doesn't really have like a fixed day off as such. However, even if that's the case, he actually has to nominate like a day of when he wants to book our daughter. So it'll have to be like Monday to Wednesday or something like that. So just I guess be mindful of that even if you are working rostered shift, it's not easy to just pick like a random day. Now, I'll just leave my daughter on a Monday because I'm working on that Monday, for example. You actually have to nominate specific days. But like I said, for me, even though we are both nurses, I am fortunate that I am in my point of my career where as a facilitator, I no longer do rostered hours anymore. It's fixed Monday to Friday. I do 8 to 4:30. But like I said, I have decreased my hours recently, so I'm only doing the 3 days a week. So it's a lot easier for our family, especially we don't really have other support here who will look after our daughter. Okay, let's talk more about childcare subsidies. So in New Zealand, it is possible to apply for childcare subsidy. There is an eligibility criteria, which I will not go into details, but in summary, so just for your reference, for some reference for those who are based in New Zealand. So there is help for paying childcare depending on how much you earn and how old your children are. Your family may be able to get help with the cost of childcare for children under 5. 20 hours of funded early childhood education are provided. So all 3, 4, and 5-year-olds can get up to 20 hours of early childhood education funded by the Ministry of Health. However, other than the age of the child being 3, 4, and 5, you can also get a subsidy depending on your income. And I'll just quickly show this table here. So it's based on your gross weekly income. So that's before tax, depending on the number of children that you have, 1, 2, or 3. So I guess just as a reflection, so in our experience, we enrolled our daughter to daycare when she was just 10 months old, because obviously I was returning back to work. I'm gonna work, again, and then my husband, like I said, he works different shifts and different days, so we really needed the childcare services. However, there was no childcare subsidy for kids under 3 years old, so we were paying the full fee. So just an example, if I'm not sure if this is the same fees. So for example, just going back into that table, for someone enrolled full-time on a Monday to Friday, it's 275 per week for under 3 years old. So just imagine that we had to pay like similar amount to that, and there's no childcare subsidy at all. And then now, even now, so for example, even if we didn't move to Australia, we stayed in New Zealand, for example, and now our daughter is 4 years old. Technically, although diba sabi natin kanina, 345 gets childcare subsidy, because it is income tested, we still won't qualify, I think anyway, on the subsidy because it is income tested and it's based on a weekly gross salary. So that's before tax. And together, our combined salary before tax looks enough, but obviously after tax, it's a different matter. So I guess all I'm trying to say is if we stayed in New Zealand, we won't get any childcare subsidy at all still. At least that's what I think anyway. And then here in Australia, although the childcare fees are definitely much more expensive than New Zealand on paper, because we qualify for the childcare subsidy, we are not paying as much. So they have a different eligibility criteria. I have created a video about that, link above if you want to review that video. So although on paper it says that the daily rate for Brisbane, for example, is $128, we only pay around 36 Australian dollars, which is around 38 New Zealand dollars. So that's we're definitely grateful for that. It helps with the budgeting. And obviously the daily rate will vary depending where you are living. If it's a play-based center or Montessori and other extra services the facility may offer, and more importantly, the childcare subsidy that you will get will depend on your individual situation. I just had to add like the different extra services because when I was looking like childcare services online while we were still in New Zealand, I've seen somewhere, I can't remember where in Queensland, but they offer like yoga classes, and they had like chef on site, and they can also teach Mandarin and music. This for like under 5-year-old kids, huh? So it does vary. Oh, and I forgot to mention, in Queensland, they also offer 15 hours free kindy per week, and that helps too. So they have 15 hours free kindy na walang bayad. So ang babayaran mo na lang would be the hours outside of those 15 hours, if that makes sense. But overall, New Zealand, Australia, even with childcare, I must say, it is still costly, especially if you don't have family members or friends to support you. In our experience living in New Zealand, especially when my daughter was just a little over 1 year old and she just started going to daycare, she'd catch a cold and would be sick, and I or my husband would have to take a day off from work. But we still had to pay for the day when our daughter was booked to attend the daycare. So I believe that's similar here in Australia. So if you are budgeting, planning for researching about these things, just take that into consideration as well. Question of the day: what do you think about the childcare fees in New Zealand and Australia? Is one better than the other, or are they just the same? Let me know on the comments section below. By the way, if I may just add, the whole childcare service, I guess, experience for me as a mother, it's slightly different because obviously I grew up in the Philippines, and we're so used to having our extended family or just like friendly neighbors. Wala namang, I don't think na merong childcare service at like months old, at least not when I was growing up where I was living. So it was really daunting, to leave my daughter sa care ng ibang tao, if I may put it that way. But so far, it's been a good overall experience. I wouldn't say it's perfect. There are definitely times where I had some discussions with the other staff members in New Zealand and Australia because, you get worried about your daughter. And there are some incidents where my daughter was involved with like other kids like trying to bite her, throw things at her. So that was definitely distressing. But overall, I'd like to think, or I think in my observation, the educators, the staff, they're so caring, and my daughter has like her favorite teachers as well. So I'm so happy to see how sociable she is, at her young age. I could only imagine if it's just the three of us and she spent most of her time at home. But I don't think she's shy. She's super friendly. And then what else can I tell you? And then they have an app as well in the childcare services where you can read like what happens to your daughter's day. They're very good with communication actually. Either they'll have it either as like handwritten in the notebook. You can have a look of how much your child has eaten on the day or any activities. Otherwise, they have like a separate app. You can add your family members. They have photos and everything. And then for the older kids, like over 3 years old, they also have excursions. They go on lake, beach. So yeah, I think it's fun that my daughter has more social life than I do. My life is just this nursing on weekdays. And I also work extra hours in university. Sometimes if you see me, say hello. I help out with the return demonstration for student nurses and student doctors. So yeah, say hello if you see me outside of the YouTube world. And of course, if you think this video is helpful, then share it. Share it to your friends. Or you can check out my other video about how to apply for childcare services in Australia. As always, I wish you all the best with your journey and I hope you will be blessed. I'll see you soon. Bye!